So Liverpool were held to a 1-1 draw at home by relegation fodder Tottenham Hotspur. You know what? Fair play to Tottenham for getting a result at Anfield. Liverpool were below par, to say the least. When I was younger playing football before social media, there used to be a mantra that I used to hear coaches say all the time. And that was, you have to earn the right to play. You know, that's what I was thinking. Watching that game, I was thinking, Liverpool, we didn't earn the right to play. You know, we should have killed the game off. You know, we all know what's gonna come. You know, if you can't kill off a team, you know, 1-0, the opposition is still in the game. You know, no matter who you're playing, we could have been playing the League Two side. You know, and it's 1-0 to us in the interval. Before the interval, they still have a chance. You know, and that's what, yeah, and they capitalised. Second half, you know, they were knocking on the door, asking all the right questions. You know, and Liverpool didn't have the answers in the end, really. You know, yeah, we drew, but it felt like a defeat. You know, I'm sure most Liverpool fans feel the same way. You know, Spurs actually had more shots on target than us. Spurs run a collective 9 kilometers more than Liverpool. You know, I cannot believe I'm watching pretty much the same side who won the league last season. Honestly, sorry, but Virgil van Dijk, look, I think we have to just come to terms with the fact that his legs are gone. You know, Virgil van Dijk is past it. You know what I'm saying? You know, I think a lot of us Liverpool fans know this. He's been a colossal player for us over the years. He's won everything. You know, Prime Van Dijk was head and shoulders above any centre back in world football for sure. But now, safe to say, man, you know, I think Virgil van Dijk is past it. You know, if you look at Richarlison's equaliser in the dying minutes, you know, Kolo Muani, you know, essentially strong-arming Virgil van Dijk, near enough doing kick-ups before he put Richarlison in on goal, you know. So, yeah, that's not the Van Dijk that I know, you know what I'm saying? You know, last season, you would never see this sort of stuff happen to Van Dijk. You know, I was there thinking, did Kolo Muani just strong arm Virgil van Dijk for assisting Richarlison? You know, I could not believe it. You know, so yeah, Van Dijk, honestly. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at, you know, players like Van Dijk and Salah. They've played their part for Liverpool Football Club. They've given us greatness over the years. But you know, we have to be realistic. You know, we have to be honest, I think. You know, so I think he has definitely gotten away with a lot of average performances. A lot of times Konate was getting subjected to being the scapegoat, you know, when Virgil van Dijk was just as bad, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I feel like he's above critique at times, you know what I'm saying? That we have to talk about Virgil van Dijk. You know, obviously he's still our best defender, but you know, that brings me on to Mark Gahey, missing out on him. I think honestly, the board, the sporting director, you know, the decision makers, the people who oversee the transfers, man, honestly, they had a stinker, you know, with that one, with us not securing the signature of Mark Gahey, man. Honestly, you know, so yeah, we got huge problems at the back. Frimpong, you know, honestly, this guy is just, there's no metal with this guy. Not just him, you know, it's like, where's your metal, you know? And the amount of times he gets to the byline, his end product is just like, you know, he's just not sure, you know what I mean? I mean, Trent let's be honest here. Trent wasn't the best 1v1 defender, you know, but in possession, when Trent, you know, was on that ball, you know, he's going to make something happen, you know what I'm saying? He's going to split lines, you know. break lines with that cross. You know, that cross is going to be on the money. You know, so people still don't know whether Frimpong is a winger, whether he's a fullback. You know, so yeah, just I was, you know what, I wasn't totally convinced. You know, when we first signed him. You know, goes without saying that Frimpong, if he wasn't for pace, I don't think he'd be a footballer. You know, when you talk about him and Wirtz, you know, these guys, they had a great season, you know, at Leverkusen. You know what I'm saying, last season. You know, so that speaks volumes about the standard of football in the Bundesliga, you know, opposed to the Premier League. You know what I'm saying? So Frimpong, I don't know. I can't see how he's going to improve. I can't, you know, I just can't, I can't see it. You know, he's got the ability to offer us something totally different, you know, but he's just short. There's just something not quite right about Frimpong. Let me know what you think in the comments, you know. And McAllister is another one. Honestly, McAllister, mate, on your bike. Honestly now, you know, he has been shocking for ages, you know. I think the last time I remember him having a half decent game was against Real Madrid in the Champions League at home. You know what I mean, when we beat them. You know, honestly, you know, McAllister, like, what does he offer? What does it offer that team? The amount of times I've seen players just easily go past him, you know, like, at least bring someone down, you know, bring a player down, McAllister, take a yellow card for the team, man, you know, take one for the team. You know, he's not that type of player. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and obviously Zoboslai, Mr. Reliable, you know, I thought it was okay, you know, but at times it just feels like, you know, he's just playing in that midfield by himself. You know, the mantle is constantly on this young man, you know, to come up with the goods for us, you know, and there's only so much he can do at times, you know, and Rio, I think Rio was really good, you know, he was direct, he was, you know, trying to get on the ball and make things happen, you know, so I think he'll be fine, you know, he's still obviously a spring chicken, he's learning his trade, you know, so hopefully, you know, he can be even better than Sterling, you know, but definitely needs to work on the end product there. You know, you can see what he's trying to do, but yeah, definitely needs to definitely just work on that crossing, getting that final ball into the box, and you know, definitely had a few shots on target that I thought he could have done better with. But you know, I'm not being critical. Definitely, you know, was our best player. Definitely needs some more game time, you know, and yeah. So this, I just can't. I can't believe the lack of confidence in this side. I really can't. Players look nervous. I saw Robbo, he tried to dive, played it off the park. Same with Virgil van Dijk, Gomez too. I'm like, these players look like it was the first time they played football yesterday. Honestly, you know, like, play for the badge. This is what Liverpool's about. This is what playing for Liverpool F.C. is about. You know what I'm saying? You got to leave it all on the football pitch, you know. And a lot of these players in midfield, they're not cut from that cloth. I'm sorry, they're not cut from that cloth. You know, even back in the day, you know, 2005, you know, we had like the likes of Smitsa, Haman, you know, Risa. You know, these players had metal. You know what I'm saying? They weren't world beaters, you know what I mean? But they understood what it meant, you know, playing for Liverpool. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, so if you look at the midfield that we have now, yeah, you could probably argue that technically most of these midfield players are technically better than, you know, what we had back then, you know, arguably, but, you know, those players were reliable, you know. Those players will dig deep when the going gets tough. McAllister, where are you when the going gets tough? You know what I'm saying? Gravenberch, you know, I haven't got a problem with him. And I think he's a player that can turn defence into attack, you know. So I'd definitely like to see him score more goals. You know, I think he's got that ability for sure. You know he can hit him, you know. So I think he just needs to get back to that form again, you know. So Gravenberch, he was alright, but you know what I'm saying, that at least Gravenberch, he'll put his head where it hurts, you know. So yeah, honestly, Liverpool. So when Ekitike came on, I think he probably could have scored, you know, but he should have started. You know what I mean? He should have started. He's a top goal scorer, you know. So I don't see why he'd be on the bench. You know, that boy is a finisher. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think he definitely should have started. You know, Salah was good when he come on. Again, Salah's on his way out, you know, so, you know, I think it'll be a miracle if he's there next season, but I think he'll probably see out the rest of his contract, you know. So Liverpool have been absolute let down this season, you know. I don't even know where we're going to finish, you know. Slot, his style of play, like, everybody's still trying to figure it out, you know. It's like Keita, he's turned into the forgotten man, you know what I'm saying? It's like, honestly, it's the team selection at times, it's got you there just scratching your head, you know. Honestly, it's shocking. It's shocking stuff, man. Honestly, I wanted to throw something at the TV yesterday watching that abysmal performance, you know, from Liverpool Football Club, man. It hurts, honestly. You know, I can't believe like some of these players, modern day football. You know, I mean, we talk about Wirtz. I almost forgot about Wirtz. You know, he hasn't been convincing. You know, it's just like we have to just vouch for Wirtz because he had a great season at Leverkusen. You know, he's been shit. He's been awful for us. It hasn't been good enough. We can see what he's trying to do, but he's too unselfish. You know, it's always like, you know, we know he's got techers. We know, he's got the ability to find, you know, the final pass. You know, play that ball through the eye of a needle. You know, he's that type of player. But come on, man, he needs to take the game in the scruff of the neck. You know what I'm saying? Have a shot. So what if he shank it? But get a shot. You know, it's when he's in those pockets where you want him, you know, to just be a bit more confident and get a shot off. He just play it from side to side or try and find that free ball. You know what I mean? So come on. But like, I've been massively disappointed. I don't see how much more this guy can give that team. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely a system player. You know, he needs certain players around him for him to really thrive. You know, honestly, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off, man. We miss out on players like Semenyo, you know, and Gahey. You know what I'm saying? We're going for these flipping glazed fucking modern day football superstars, you know? It's pissing me off. You know what I'm saying? When there's so many Premiership proven players, you know, in the league, you know, that we could sign for us to, you know, and do a job. You know, it's just this bullshit. You know, it just honestly, Slot has ripped the spirit, mentality, and heart out of Liverpool, man. You know, so I do not believe he can take this club any further. I don't. Sorry, you know, I'm not trying to jump on this Slot out bandwagon. No, but it's. I think this guy's clueless. You know, and he's run out of luck. He's run out of luck for sure. You know, so I think after him, and I think Alonso will definitely get the nod at some point. You know, so yeah, I just don't have much faith in Slot. I'm sorry. You know, disgraceful performance. You know, I don't know what else to say, man. But yeah, Liverpool fans, please let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about, you know, about the type of personnel and players that we should have definitely signed. You know, we spent almost £1 billion, and this is what we have to offer. It's not good enough. Most of these signings haven't worked. They haven't worked. It's only been Ekitike, really. You know, it has not worked. You know, so yeah, Isak, we know what he can do, but always on the sideline, always under the knife. You know, so great players, it's about consistency. You know, you've got to do it week in, week out. You know, so obviously sometimes, you know, you get players who are injury players. I understand that, you know, but those players will eventually come and go, won't they? So yeah, Liverpool, shocking display at Anfield yesterday. But you know what, Spurs, fair play to you. You know, you have to earn the right to play at the end of the day. You know, and yeah, I think ultimately Spurs deserve their point. Yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.